Good morning. It's Wednesday morning, 1st of May. Now, always in the beginning of the month, I do a reading, which I show you, but I'm going to do a different way this morning because with everything going on right now for me and my busyness, I forgot to do the reading yesterday. So this morning, and I sent my newsletter out this morning. So if you're not on my newsletter, through my website, you can email me and say you wanted to get on the newsletter line. Anyway, guys, so got that done. And I put a reading out here, and I'm just going to show you the cards as I go through this because we've got a big morning this morning because I want to do the expanded chakra system. And I guess I could have left that for next week, but I'm doing it this week as well. So the first symbol that we had come up is the Two of Wands. And when I looked at that, it just shows that people are changing. Life is changing. They're leaving the old established and moving more into the non-established. Excuse me. It takes a while sometimes for my voice to get going in the morning. Well, let's have a drink on it. But as always, there's always those that resist. So even though, and remember this reading's for North America, so that's like both the US and Canada. So we've got the beginning turning away, looking at new stuff, and then we've got everybody holding on to what they know, which is a tendency that we have. We don't like changes, especially big ones that come in. And right now there's a lot of big different ideas and concepts floating around out there, some being put into play, some not. And so there, that to me is very, very doable. And I would say that's going to last till about the 4th, these next few days. And then, of course, the Wheel of Fortune comes along, which is change. And always with the Wheel of Fortune, you need to be like the hub of the wheel. But to me, that's spinning. So we've got from around the 5th to the 7th and 8th of lots of rumors, lots of ideas, lots of things going on, and we don't know what's happening. So we're going to go I want to go up to about the 10th. And then we have the 10 of Wands. I've got a light here, so I don't want to kind of wash it there. That's better. Not the 10 of Wands, 10 of Cups. Happy. It's like everything gets into place. So I would say here, if you're getting upset by what you hear, is wait till around the 10th. Then everything is sort of settled and you'll know, and you'll be starting off with the Magician that everything's possible. But to me, it's handable. And that's kind of one of the things we want. It's when we have the rumors and the ideas and the concepts coming at us one after the other is when we get lost because we don't know where it's going to land. When it's landed, then we know. And so that feels really good. So then as we're looking more into that maybe the landing I forget what date I said, but by the 20th, that'll be really settled. So we're looking in the early 20s, maybe 22 up to 22nd, excuse me. What we have here is the 7 of Pentacles. Again, a little bit of procrastination. I won't tell you what word I nearly said, but a procrastination through that. And that brings us to the Lovers of Confusion. So I would say the 20s are not going to be pleasant because of this last card here. It's not the actual last card, but the two of Swords. To me, that when I look at the 20s coming towards the end of the month, it's like everything. Just when we think everything's sorted, everything's going really well, it kind of stops. Confusion reigns, and we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to know what it is. And then right at the end of the month, if I can see if this comes through, there we go. The Ace of Pentacles, a new beginning. There's money involved. There's money in the beginning with the 4 of Pentacles. But basically, I think this just continues with what we've been dealing with in the last few months. Unsettlement, uncertainty, lots of different ideas, concepts coming in, trying to figure out which, where, why, how, and what. And I'm going to take these away. And I'm sorry I'm not spending more time and you haven't got a picture to actually look at it, but because I want to talk about this expanded chakra system. If you had been watching Mental Mind Treatments a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine had asked about a comment regarding a chakra, and with no disrespect to the person whose name I did not mention, but it's part of the what I consider the old system. As so often as we learn, when we learn about chakras, as I did in the beginning, was there were 7 chakras. But if you think about it, that was just created. That design was created quite a long time ago. I mean, a long time ago. And since then, things have changed. Now, this is going to be a little. I'm not an artist. I may be creative, but I'm not an artist. Now, this is my drawing of yesterday that I sat down and spent some time with. So I want you to get an idea, first of all, the body, but you're going to notice there's rings around it. And I'm going to kind of come back to that because I still am kind of working with one arm here. So if you've got a piece of paper, I should have said that. Have a piece of paper and draw a person. I'm going to sort of divide this a little bit here so it gets easier. Hang on, where are we going down there? There's a bottom. Just because I don't have a whiteboard right here. Okay, so this makes this easier for me. So here's the head, and here's the body, and here are the legs. Down to the bottom here. I want you to recognize, I'm going to go through and name some things. I'm going to use my body to basically say it too. We all know that there's a heart chakra, which is in the heart, and that's sort of the middle line in there. But, I'm reminding myself, I was going to tell you my story as to how come I got to this expanded chakra system. I know I have said this before, but we have a lot more people watching now so I just want to say this again. I was taking a course of looking at chakras. A friend of mine was also studying with another teacher looking at chakras, and we began conversing. Now, one of the things that I had found was we were looking at sort of the traditional ones a little bit, like the heart and the throat and the third eye up here and the crown. I'm just going to deal with the top part first here. So while I'm looking at this, actually, I was down working at the navel, which is the next one down. There's a navel and base, a kind of what's been accepted all along. I was coming up, and I ran from the sternum part. I'm using parts of the body to get an idea towards the heart. I'm confusing myself here. From the navel up to my heart, when I found another energy in there, which is the sternum. Very important chakra, actually. It's almost got its own chakra system within it. And my friend, when we were talking about this, now this is a lot of years ago, was saying that she was studying that there was a chakra point, but it was further out. It wasn't like an alignment as I was beginning to see them, but it was sort of outside the body, but it was the same kind of thing. So what I began to look at myself was if this is a chakra point between 2 points, what else is there? So I began to spend time looking. So what I came to understand is like every joint in our body has a chakra point, but it's not in the main line. It's kind of part of the whole, but it's not. But I wanted to get that out of the way. We know that we have what's called a base chakra, which is right at the bottom of the body. Most people call it, in the old form, call it number 1. But if you go down below that, there's what we call, below the feet actually, is what we call the earth star. And that brings you down into the earth energy. So then we have a base right at the bottom. Now, new one was a pubic bone, right at the pubic bone. And then we come to the navel. So these three down in the base, the pubic bone, and the navel is really, and of course, where men are concerned, that's very busy part of their lives and their world there. And the idea is always to balance your chakras up. So we come on up to the navel, and the navel is very important. And I'm going to talk about how far it extends, but just get an idea of the, what would you call it, how they form up. Then from the navel, there's the sternum. That leads to the heart. So what that's kind of like, the heart is the midpoint and down. Now, if you're bringing the energy up from the ground, from the earth star up, you're going to come to the heart, then you come to the mid chest. Now, the heart is universal love, but the mid chest is self-love. And I find for a lot of people, when I'm doing transformation work and getting everything all working, that often this is a little bent out of shape. Throat, very, very important if you're wanting to speak or you are speaking and doing things like that. Upper lip. Upper lip really comes into with your psychic ears, very connected to psychic ears. And then we come up to the third eye, which of course is also deals with your psychic eye. But there's other elements that go on in there. Then you have the crown. But then you come on up and you've got a soul star, what we call the soul star. And then there's chakras all the way on up from there. Some people can extend further than that and some not necessarily. So it's like knowing that the earth star is below the feet. Now, how you between the feet, the earth star and the soul star, you can actually feel them. So what I often do when I'm doing sort of demonstrations, little lectures and stuff, is I have the person, and I can't stand it right up, but stand their hand up as high, then bring it back down slowly. Whenever you're working with energy, you work slowly. So you bring the energy down slowly, and you'll begin to feel pressure on your palm. Now, it's a good idea before you do this to actually do a little bit of massaging on the palm area to activate it, to get it awake. So you go up, come on down, and you can feel it. And you can do the same with your feet. You can feel it on your feet. Now, you feel like both feet, but actually, if you, in a way, it's one, but it comes down to that earth star. It joins. Now, the other thing is that the chakras, it's like you're in a bubble. In my drawing here, I've got a red bubble and then an orange bubble. The orange bubble is probably more correct. I realized when I finished my red bubble that I didn't have the feet in it. So what happens is each one of these chakras, and we usually, when we're doing something, start with the heart one, stretches out and connects into the outside bubble, which we'll say is the orange, and moves through 360 all around. You live actually in a bubble with all these chakra points working, flowing. So let's just go over them again. The earth star is the connection on down into the earth. The feet, even though they're over here, they sort of measure up with underneath the feet. Your ankles, your knees, your hips are going to have points in them as well. But it's all part of the energy that's always flowing. It's not like there's a central point, but the energy flows through. So your earth star is an important base connection to the earth. Then as you come up, your base chakra is that. I'm not going to go into colors, but that one tends to be more of a red color. I find when you add colors, unless you're really great at seeing the clairvoyance, you don't always see it, but no, you'll feel the energy anyway, wherever you are. I'm just looking here for a pen or a pencil. Now, so the base is very much like that, and it deals a lot with men's sexuality. It does a lot with the base of our spine, of course. So if you have back problems, very often that with the pubic bone plays a part in there. That lower back often, many of us, I've had more accidents where I've jumped down on the back of that spine over the years when I was an athletic kid doing all sorts of things. And the worst one was a tennis court when I was 14. and slipped on a wet tennis court. And that gave me back problems when I was older. Again, that happens a lot. Anyway, the base chakra, the pubic bone chakra work together. The navel is very important for women to make sure that that's flowing, because that goes right through the uterus and goes through. And remember, the chakra has 3 points: up and then out. So when I'm doing a workshop for each point, what we're doing is breathing, and we're breathing the energy up, and we're breathing the energy down when we're breathing the energy through. So it's kind of like the star, right? In a way, all these points, because we want the energy all flowing. We don't want energy blocking. And what happens a lot with chakra work is there's blocks in the chakra itself, but also blocks going from A to B, you might say. So we want to flow. As we come to that navel, as I said, it's often a lot of creativity there as well. If you're creative, that's usually quite active. Now, the sternum was the first one I ran into. And the sternum, as I said, is important because it seems to have its own, you might say, parts of it as well. And I'm always fine when I'm working, if someone comes up and on my chart and shows that there's a block in the sternum, I really take a really look, because very often there's that, I don't know, it seems to do, I haven't found out exactly why it is more, but it has more to it. I just got busy with other things, but there is more to it. But it's an interesting chakra line through. Your heart is very important. Universal love comes in through the heart. And of course, all these systems flow together, by the way. We separate them when we look at them and try to figure out where and how and who. So the heart is, and remember, each thing is connected out. It's not like, oh, it's here. It's this energy flows all the way around you. You live in a 360 bubble, and you want that energy coming from the point you see it coming in and going out. It goes out 360. Jeepers, sorry about this. I have a frog in my throat. Talking about one of my favorite subjects. Can you believe it? Excuse me. I have to stretch with my right hand because my left hand elbow still doesn't work properly. I'm just trying to clear this frog in my throat. That's why we're live, right? All the interesting things happen in the moment because that's life. So heart is very, very important. Coming up to the mid-chest is self-love. Now, a lot of people don't get the difference. Universal love means the universe loves you, wants you to be there, and it is wonderful. And it's usually when we're connecting into the love force where we first connect. We first understand. We first work with that. The mid-chest is self. Now, it still has energy that flows in the bubble, in and out, up and down. However, we all go that because they're all intermingling. And it's only as we're looking at it separate does it look separate. When we're working with a chakra system that works, we want everything flowing together because it all flows in and it flows out everywhere. So we want it flowing. We don't want any blocks or anything else. So this mid chest here, very important. And that's self. How are we loving ourselves? Then we come up to the throat. Well, you probably gathered by now, I never had too much difficulty talking. I think I came out of the womb talking, actually, because I was being told to be quiet most of my life. So it's very much activated in the speaking and belief, and because the self-love is underneath that as it's moving up. By the way, the energy moves up and down, but we haven't got to that yet. Throat. Now, this is an interesting one. This upper lip here talks with the ears, psychic ears, but we have psychic ears, eyes, nose, and mouth. So it also deals with the mouth. Some people will say, if you're ever around people who are psychic or studying, they use very much like, oh, that tastes funny, or smells funny, or looks funny. And that's because here we're working with those sensory things that come through, often dealing with the upper lip. The eyes more come from the third eye, but so this deals a lot with the psychic mouth, the psychic ears, the psychic nose. Now, the psychic nose resides up here where my glasses cross over the bridge of my nose. In a lot of older metaphysical forms, you'll see they draw kind of a spark here, thinking it's the third eye. I found the third eye is just a little higher. This is your psychic nose. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about a cousin of mine, and I have told this story on here before. So I was back visiting New Zealand, and I was visiting with a cousin of mine who at that time, she's retired now, worked for a bank, and she was very good at finding fraud where people were, doing fraudulent things. So they had her train people. Now I came along, and so I was curious, well, how do you do that? She said, oh, I don't know. It just smells funny. And I said, are you teaching people to smell? Because she said, yeah, they're not getting it. I said, no, because some people will see that it looks funny. Some people will smell like you do. And some people will hear that something doesn't ring right. So in other words, you've got to look at these other abilities to find out what their ability, their psychic ability, because you're using a psychic ability. You are a smeller. You have a psychic nose. And usually when we're looking at the chakra that works with it is right here, right where my glasses sit. And, but luckily it's not a physical thing. So it does, but I've never dealt with that. My daughter used to smell. She could smell. The odd time I have had that smell, but I've never been a good smeller, if you know what I mean. I just don't smell a lot. It's not my thing, but some people have that. And that is right here, and that comes from the nose, directs the nose. The third eye up here deals with, like it says, the what we call the psychic eye, and it deals with the eyes. But it actually feeds the brain, and I have an element I would teach about how the energy goes in there and how it all comes together in looking and seeing and knowing. You want that clear. Well, we want all of these clears. And then your crown sits on top of your head. And it's kind of part of the alignment than what's coming above, which is your soul star, which is above that takes all the other ones, goes on up. Now, I know that there are so many levels, and I remember channeling for this lady once who had somebody come from the 11th level up, or wherever that would be, to talk to her. And she said, I said, oh, we talked afterwards. And I said, yeah, like they mentioned their 7th level. She said, yeah, I've been working with the 7th level for some time. And I said, oh, that is so interesting, because I had never had anybody that came to say they were from the 11th level up. And it is. Now, so we are actually, it's almost like having a cord above and a cord below, even though our legs separate us a little bit and go down, but it goes down into the earth. So when we say we're grounded, it's because that base is connected to the earth star, who connects us down deeper into the earth. And so we're in our bodies, not floating around outside. When somebody says, oh, that person's spacey, is because they're all up here. They're not down in their bodies. The idea is to have it all equalized. So the key here, what I want you to, I'm going to show you this picture of mine again. The outside one I drew in the orange, and that's what we need to know, is that we're inside a bubble. We're connected above and we're connected below, and that it works through all these elements that we go through to see. And no one chakra is more important than the other. You will hear this sometimes. Oh, your heart chakra is the important one, or your third eye is important. No one chakra is more important. Is one arm more important than the other? Is one leg more important than the other? Is one eye more important than the other? No. Each chakra plays its role because it's bringing the energy in from my orange line, bringing the energy in to come into the energy that flows within you. So everything adds. That's one of my sayings actually, is that everything adds. And in this case, it does. I'm just writing that down. It does. And you might, if you've already done a lot of chakra work, just get into, you can start with your heart if you want, or wherever, and just begin to really follow the energy, because that's how I found all these. I would go in, and because we had found, I had found the sternum, and then I sort of like come on up the heart, and then follow up until you all of a sudden feel this little energy, and then you got to expand that energy out and bring the energy that's outside through. So all energy in the chakra, which I don't have shown here, comes in and out and up and down. When I'm doing chakra balancing workshops, that's what I do. Work with each chakra, then we go breathe it. It's in and out and up and down until we get all of these chakras coming in and out and up and down at the same time. So that's when everything is working, when it isn't working. Now, I wish I had, whoops, sorry. I wish I could see what Florence said. Please don't hesitate to ask, and you write to me in your comments, write comments to me about this, what you would want to know more of. It's just that when I hear of the old system, like 1 to 7, it's like it lights me up a little bit, because I've been working with this new system for so many years. I forget that people are still bound by the old system. I understand why. I understand because it was taught for centuries. But we today are not. Let's take a just think of how much we are bombarded by the different rays and radio and hundreds of rays of energy coming in. Centuries ago, they didn't have that. It was still. There may have been thought forms running around, but there wasn't these other waves that go on. And I have run into people that are so allergic to the waves, so allergic that they create homes that are totally, done. And I must admit, I have some stones and things around here that kind of supposed to keep things away. I'm not paranoid on that, but it is, I still have them, just, make sure. But it's just know that your system has adapted to what's been happening. It's adapted to ensure that your ability to be able to move and transcend energy in your own system very easily. As I said, when you come to the head, a lot of people don't realize that we have psychic mouth, psychic nose, psychic ears, psychic eyes. Never mind our intuition. So these chakras are really important to get the energy there, to get the information to where they need, and just test it. Like my cousin who had a psychic nose. Sometimes I taste. Sometimes I would just taste, num num num, and it's like, does it taste good? Does it not? The ears are interesting because your psychic ear sits down here, down below, and a lot of people, if you touch your ear back there, it's a little sore. It's probably because it's full of stuff that needs to be cleared out. Because I'm an energy clearer, so I do all sorts of things. But anyway, I noticed someone has written a comment, so I want to read that because it might add something to what I have to say here. I like the term Dizzy Stitches Crochet. I've done a lot of crocheting in my life. I knit more these days, but I like that. Anyway, I was just thinking about this the other day, was wondering if all my chakras are aligned. I try and think of one at a time, or I get overwhelmed. I know I have blockages. Well, part of my job is to clear blockages for sure. That's part of what I do to help people. But it's like blockages are usually where emotion is stuck. So, I'll tell you how I do it, and you can just see if you can do this. She said, I have been having sore lymph nodes. Yes, me too, a little bit with my arm. They took some lymph nodes out when I had some surgery, and I don't know if that's part of it, but anyway, my left arm has been playing up. It's going to get better soon. Okay, so one of the things that you can do is to check. You can visualize where you want to check. Is run your hand for sort of from the beginning of where you think the energy begins or stuff, and through. It's like clearing the decks. My hands. So we have chakra points here, very big ones, especially for us people who do healings and other things. I have a lot of friends that are really tremendous healers. I consider myself more of on the psychic side of things. So it's like, but I'm trying to get it in the picture. So let's just think I'm way out there, but then I just feel it with my hand. Could be that way or this way. And then I use the old clearing this way. Just so Dizzy Stitches, if you have a sense of where the blockages are, you can also use a twisting motion, like this way. You're winding. Use your fingers. Now I have an energy release program that I use a lot for emotion, but you can use it for anything. And you just create a container and you move whatever it is into the container to hold it, to fill it up, however much it fills up. So it's like you just do work on that. Put a drop of love in when the container you feel it's full enough, or you complete it, and send it off to the sun to be converted to clear light loving energy. That whole thing is in my on my website too. One can order that. I can send that. Oh, beautiful internet these days. Dizzy Stitches says that her sore lymph nodes are in your neck. Well, it crosses my mind if it's in your neck, where are you stiff necked anyway in life? Because our bodies, this is sometimes I don't like to look at this myself, for me, is that our bodies reflect what's happening with us, usually on points that we're not acknowledging. So but remember, you can think of the neck in front of you and run your hand through to see but you have to run your hand through slowly. When you're working with energy, clearing energy or anything, slow is the word of the day. Otherwise you miss it. It's too fast. It's like what's blocking it? What's stopping it? And it could be on this side of your hand or that side of your hand. But we all have that ability. But the key is, if it's in your neck, you're going to look at your throat chakra for sure. Also your upper lip, those two, and make sure the energy is flowing between the two of them. So thank you, Dizzy. I like that. Dizzy Stitches. Thank you for putting the comment in there and just adding a little bit. I will appreciate your comments on this. I'll appreciate any questions that you have. I will be able to, what's the word I'm looking at? Be able to answer them one way or the other. And chakras to me are one of the important elements. And I do like to get that idea of the expanded chakra system, so that we walk this planet really not being able to have to take things on. I usually know pretty well when I do. And I'm like every other human. We do sometimes take other people's energy on, something more intense, and we walk by, and it's like, I'm usually pretty good, though. We can't live a life of being a psychic and not knowing. Oh, I have one little story to tell you before I end, and I may have told this before. In my day, when I first came in, I was really quite young still, and we had a lot of clairvoyants who were trained in England, English trained clairvoyance mediums, which was the thing. And that's where it all kind of expanded from. And one day, one of my used to work with me, especially when I owned and ran the fairs as well, psychic fairs, um, phoned me up and said, can I come and see you? And I said, sure, come on. I lived out of town on the water. It was lovely at the time. And so she came to visit. And she said, I don't know what's going on. And she posed, and I went, well, what about the chakras above your head? And she looked at me and said, what are you talking about? I said, we have chakras way above our head. Just take a look. And she just went inside. She said, oh my God, didn't know they existed. Well, of course not. When she was trained, it was not common knowledge. It was not common knowledge. And we did a little kind of opening things up, and it made her, when I told her about, it was below her feet as well into the ground. Now, she was getting near retirement, actually, but she was upset because something wasn't working. I forget what. But remember, very often it's like things have been established back there in time that no longer apply in this time. And it will happen in the future. Things that people like me, who was always curious, like, well, where does this go? What does this do? Oh, what's this thing? And so that's how I began to find all these chakras in between other chakras. And one lady, I talked to her about them, and she said, oh, that's the secondary system. No, that was because there's still an addiction to that main seven. When you bring that so-called secondary system out into the form, that strengthens you in a much more different way. I have been, one time I was coming back from Hawaii, and I was in the Seattle airport, and I had to wait for my flight back to Vancouver. And there was a gal who knew me. I didn't really remember her at the time, but she knew me. So we sat, and she was waiting for her plane to take her to Miami. And so we sat down, and hour nearly for waiting for her flight, actually, because I was driving home. And she had actually, well, she was with a group that had come to what I had come to about the expanded chakra system. They had another system they were working on as well. I tried, and I use that word literally, tried to fit it in. To me, it didn't fit in, but that was okay, because there's lots of different levels people work at. And so, but to me, that was a clarification or a pat on the back as, yes, you're on the right track. Yes, this is bringing you where you need to be. So you've got a quick run through of what we can expect this month. Basically, just keep on progressing, because it'll change here and there, but don't get caught up in all, this is how it's going to be or isn't going to be. And then remember that you are far more energetically than you imagined. And yes, I've been working with this system for years, a lot of years, because I ran into this very early in my real, more in-depth learning. No, trust yourself. That's the biggest key. Just so because something is written centuries ago doesn't make it correct for today, because today our system is very, very different. So I want to wish you well. Thank you for the comments. Thank you, Dizzy Stitches. Thank you for chatting with me there. And just add a little bit more. I'm just going to have another sip of water here. Today's Wednesday, so I will be back on Sunday with a Sunday thought, and then again Monday with mental mind treatments. We're having a lot of fun with those. If you haven't checked in, whether you reviewed them or just come on, because there is something about something being in person. And yes, the whole channel came out because I wasn't allowed to go out and teach or talk to people. I wasn't able to have people come to my home. And I went, I got to do something. And so here, this channel, which I already had the channel, because I used to critique movies and put them up. And that was after my blog. I did a blog for many years, and I have a book on some of the main things that I wrote up in my blog called the blog book. That's all it's called. And anyway, here I am still, the number of years later, and yes, my health kind of took a little bit of a dive, but my goal was to always be here for this whenever they came on, and each day I have been able to maintain that, and I will, and I'm getting better. There's no doubt. It's just a little painful on the way. I wish you well. I look forward to your comments. I look forward to the emails you can always send me to via my website. It has the addresses of everything, and I know some of you have placed orders for books and not so much my CDs yet, but my books. Wish you well. Have a good day. Have a good week. I'll see you next time. Bye now.